You ever wonder why it is so incredibly hard to change, even when you know you really should? We all have these things we want to improve, but there's always something that just seems to pull us right back to what's familiar. Well, we're going to dive into that because the answer is probably not what you think.
Have you ever had that feeling? Another one. You feel like you're just stuck in a loop. You want to start a new habit, you want to leave that job, or just do something, anything differently, but you just can't. It's a super frustrating feeling, and believe me, it is a completely human experience. And when we get stuck like that, what's our first reaction? We blame ourselves, right? We think, it must be a character flaw, or I'm just lazy, or I have no discipline. But what if I told you it's not a flaw at all? What if that resistance you're feeling is actually a deeply wired survival instinct? To really get this, we've got to look at how our brains are fundamentally wired from the get-go. So let's explore your brain's built-in survival mode.
So when we talk about resisting change, this is exactly what we mean. It's that powerful, almost gravitational pull to just stick with what you know and avoid that queasy, uncomfortable feeling that comes with not knowing what's next.
Now get this, because this right here is the core misunderstanding most of us have about our own minds. We tend to think our brain's main job is to make us happy or successful, but it's not. Its absolute #1 priority, above everything else, is just to keep you alive. It is all about survival. And from that survival perspective, the world gets broken down into a very simple equation. Familiar things, routines, situations, they're predictable. And because they're predictable, your brain considers them safe. Anything new or unknown is, by definition, unpredictable, so your brain immediately flags it as potentially risky. That feeling of resistance? Yeah, that's your internal alarm system going off. So, that's the biological hardware. Now, let's talk about the software. How this all plays out in our actual thoughts and feelings. This is the psychology behind why we stay put. And it really all starts with the biggest psychological barrier there is, the fear of the unknown. Remember that risky label your brain just slapped on anything new? Well, it turns out our minds are deeply uncomfortable with uncertainty.
See, your brain is a prediction machine. It's always trying to figure out what's coming next. But when it doesn't have enough data, it doesn't just wait around. Oh no. It starts to fill in the blanks. And to keep you safe, it doesn't dream up wonderful outcomes. It goes straight to imagining the worst-case scenarios, filling your head with doubt and triggering anxiety, all in an attempt to make you slam on the brakes. And it's not just fear. There are a bunch of other powerful forces at play here. We resist because we absolutely hate the feeling of losing control. We cling to our comfort zones, not because they're amazing, but just because they're familiar. We're terrified of failing, and sometimes our very identity is so wrapped up in our current situation that making a change feels like we're losing a piece of who we are. Now, when you put all these factors together, they don't just hold you back once, they actually trap you in this self-perpetuating loop. Let's take a look at the vicious cycle of inaction. This breaks it down perfectly. It starts with an idea, you consider making a change. Immediately, that triggers feelings of uncertainty and fear. Then, your brain does its job and screams, "Danger! Look at all the risks." So what's the logical response? You delay or avoid taking action, and you end up right back where you started, which just reinforces the idea that staying put is the safer bet. And we see this play out all the time. The simple phrase, "I'll start tomorrow," is the perfect example of this loop in action. It's a brilliant way to quiet the immediate anxiety without actually having to face the discomfort of change. But, as we all know, tomorrow has a funny way of turning into next week, then next month, or just never. So, does this mean we're just doomed to be stuck forever? Not at all. The key isn't to fight your brain, but to learn how to work with it. Let's look at how you can gently nudge your brain in a new direction. The trick is to start small. I mean, so small that your internal alarm system doesn't even notice. Don't aim to get fit. Aim for just 5 minutes of walking. Don't try to write a book. Just try to write one single sentence. A tiny, non-threatening step like that can bypass the fear response completely. This is such an important mindset shift. We're wired to interpret discomfort as a warning sign. But when you're intentionally making a change, that discomfort isn't a signal of danger. It's the feeling of your comfort zone stretching. It's literally what progress feels like. Okay, here's a practical tool for you. Your brain's default question is always, what if this goes wrong? You have to consciously override that programming. You have to actively ask yourself a better question. Okay, but what if this goes right? What are the potential upsides? What if this actually improves my life?
And this approach really builds on itself. You can turn something new and scary into something old and familiar just by creating a routine around it. You can motivate yourself by visualizing the positive outcome you're working toward. And maybe most importantly, you have to act before you feel ready. Confidence is a result of action, not a requirement for it.
All right, let's bring this all home with one final, powerful idea. How should we really be thinking about change? Is it a threat that we should avoid? Or is it an advantage we should embrace?
Your brain is designed to protect you from the short-term risk of the unknown. But what it often fails to calculate is the long-term risk of stagnation. In a world that is constantly changing, the biggest risk of all isn't making a move, it's choosing to stand still.
And this is the key takeaway from all of this. That feeling of resistance isn't you being weak. It's just your ancient brain trying to protect you. But the moment you can look at that feeling, thank your brain for the warning, and then choose to step forward anyway, the moment you reframe change from a threat to an opportunity, that is the moment it becomes your single greatest advantage.